I'm your number one fan.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
My mom and dad are gonna be
I see dead people.
Hello.
Hi.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Killer Cuties podcast.
So much has happened since our last episode.
I know. Well, we both pretty much just spent weeks in bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
On personal notes, we've both been very ill.
Yes. It was terrible. At least it was at the same time.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. It's almost like we got each other sick, but from miles and miles away, which I think is kind of cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's real friendship.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're feeling a little bit better, but please excuse us if there's any clearings of the throats or sniffles or anything like that.
Yeah. Also, I cut off 11 inches of hair.
You did, and it looks fantastic.
Oh my God, thank you.
I really like it. It's a very fresh summer cut.
Thank you.
I've been itching to cut my hair as well.
Do it.
I think I might weirdly after the summer, but
Okay. Well, yeah, that's weird.
yeah. Well, I'm going on a trip soon, so I'll probably cut it after I get back.
Okay. See, I cut mine before my trip.
That's smart.
Yeah.
But I kind of like my long hair for pics and stuff.
Photos.
Yeah.
I will say it only takes me 6 minutes to curl my hair now.
Oh.
So fast.
I like that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Well, enough about us. Should we hop into some news?
Horror news. Yeah. I'll go first.
Okay.
If you were a fan of I Saw the TV Glow, like we were, Cassidy more than me, but I still was.
Obsessed.
I have good news for you. Director Jane Schoenbrunn announced their next project. It's called Public Access Afterworld.
Ooh.
It's a book.
Oh.
Yeah. We don't have a release date yet, just an official coming soon from the publisher. And we also got a little synopsis. So it is Jane's debut novel, and it's, quote, an epic blend of literary fantasy, coming of age, sci-fi, and horror, which traces the mysterious transmissions of a secret television network. So it sounds very I Saw the TV Glow adjacent.
Yeah. Like a sister.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, exactly.
Companion novel.
Yes. Jane also said it's a culmination of their so-called Screen trilogy, which began with We're All Going to the World's Fair and I Saw the TV Glow, obviously. But the novel is more focused on the post-transition versus, obviously, the pre-transition, like the two movies are. They said it's, quote, my attempt to craft a contemporary queer opus on the scale of Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Very excited. I'll be reading that.
Yeah. Books just do it better always. And I wish that more directors would write books too.
Yeah, there's something about a book. I think it's just because you can put so much more detail into it.
Yeah.
And also it kind of sparks that imagination of you get to kind of create it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
On my end, David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier series, he has been cast as Steamboat Willie in the upcoming horror comedy Screamboat, which we had talked about that earlier this year, the movie itself, because Steamboat Willie obviously went into the public domain this year, so that was one of the horror movies that was announced taking advantage of that. And yeah, so we're going to have a little bit different but similar, I think, feel from him. So it's exciting. Casting news.
So fun. I still haven't seen Terrifier, but I have seen all of the TikToks that have gone viral recently of Art.
Yeah.
Okay, next one for me. This is a big one. I'm going to talk forever.
Okay.
Blumhouse, who, as you know, has brought us Megan, Insidious, the newer Halloween movies. Black Phone, Five Nights at Freddy's the movie, The Purge, Paranormal Activity. So many movies. They dropped a bomb on us. They're launching a gaming vertical called Blumhouse Games, and they've already revealed the first 6 games on the docket.
Tell them to me.
So we get some of them this year.
Oh.
The first one, the Blumhouse Games debut, is called Fear the Spotlight by a studio called Cozy Game Pals. And it takes inspiration from 90s teen horror stories. So it's puzzles, survival, and horror, and it's all PS1 style graphics. It's very like retro graphics.
Yeah.
That's coming later this year, and initial reviews are already coming in, and they look really promising. Then we have Chrysal, Theater of Idols, which is in development by Vermilla Studios. It's a first-person horror adventure shooter, maybe? The trailer makes it look like a shooter, too, where you get to navigate the folklore and religion of a nightmarish version of Spain.
Okay.
And it is a Spanish studio.
Nice.
So that's kind of fun.
Like that.
Yeah. Next, we'll get a game by Perfect Garbage Studios called Grave Seasons, which is literally horror Stardew Valley. Yeah. It's a pixelated farm simulation where you have to solve the mystery of a supernatural serial killer.
Amazing.
It's super cute.
I feel like that'll be like cozy horror.
Yeah. Next one's weird. It's called Sleep Awake. It's being developed by Eyes Out, which is a collaboration between Corey Davis, who's the guy who designed Spec Ops: The Line, and Robin Fink, the guitarist from Nine Inch Nails.
What?
Yeah. It's a futuristic psychedelic horror about the human race slowly disappearing as they sleep.
Okay.
It sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not into it.
Yeah. Then we have The Simulation. I think this is the one I'm most looking forward to. It's from Playme Studio. It's about a game designer or developer who's hired to help solve a crime. I'm not 100% sure. We don't have a lot of details, but from the trailer, it looks, and when I keep saying trailer, this is like the announcement of the 6 games. It's not, none of these games have their own trailer yet.
Yeah.
It looks like you play as the developer who gets to then play through several different video games in developer mode as part of his investigation.
Oh.
It looks so fun.
Interesting. Okay, I'm into it.
And then last one is called Project C, which comes from the minds of Sam Barlow, who did Her Story, and Brandon Cronenberg, who did Infinity Pool. We have the fewest details on this one, but the trailer suggests that it's like horror time travel and that things get really weird and there's alternate timelines. So yeah, all that to say, we've got some big names behind some of these games, and we don't even have to wait that long before we start getting our hands on the games.
Yeah.
Next couple months.
Nice. Yeah, I'd heard that they were going to delve into gaming, but I didn't know that they had like released what the games were going to be about. That's exciting.
Yeah, we'll drop a link to the trailer, the announcement trailer.
Yeah. Nice. Very exciting.
Very.
Last news from me. George A. Romero's daughter, Tina Romero, is set to make her directorial debut. And of course, it's going to be a zombie movie.
Yay!
Yeah, so it's called Queens of the Dead. I thought this was like relevant news since we're literally going to be talking about a Nepo Baby's directorial debut today. But yeah, she said, my dad's zombies were always reflecting what's going on in the world, and I almost feel a responsibility to take the torch and keep the Romero zombie alive, upholding, respecting, paying homage to it, while also introducing myself in my own voice as a filmmaker and my own perspective. So exciting! We're going to get more Romero zombies in the future.
Cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing you can't do with a dream and daddy's money.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, to be a Nepo baby.
Yeah.
To live the dream.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about what we really came here to talk about. Okay. I'll give us a little synopsis. The Watchers is about a 28-year-old artist and pet store associate named Mina, who's played by Dakota Fanning. She gets stranded in an expansive, seemingly untouched forest in Ireland. After discovering shelter, she unknowingly becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers who are stalked by mysterious creatures every night. The movie also stars Georgina Campbell from Barbarian, and it's Ishana Night Shyamalan's directorial debut based on the book of the same name by A.M. Shine. It opened just a couple weeks ago, June 7th, 2024, and has so far made just over $15 million. It's got a really depressing 32% critics and 52% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Could be better. Could have better scores, you know? It's not the greatest directorial debut that you'd want, but I guess we'll find out if we think that is the score it deserves.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't think that the directing is what earned it those scores. But
Yeah. I didn't have any issues really with the directing. Well, I wouldn't say any issues with the directing.
Yeah.
But some of the shots were really beautiful.
Yeah.
The atmosphere was cool.
Yeah.
And that's somewhat due to the direction, so...
Yeah. I was going to say the writing is what I'm trying not to give away too much of how I felt about this movie.
You know what? I think we both already know how we feel about this movie, so let's just go for it.
Yeah, so I was going to say the writing is what made this movie shit, but that's also Ishana's fault, so...
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
Ishana.
Apparently she worked really closely with A.M. Shine, who wrote the novel. She shared, like, drafts of the script with him, made sure that everything was good, because she, like, got the book from a producer, I think, told her to read it, and then she became a fan of it and wanted to make it. And, yeah, apparently he was really supportive. He said that they feel like two different art pieces, like, the book is his piece of art and the movie is her piece of art. And he kind of gave her free rein to, like, do what she wanted. But from everything I've read, it seems like it followed it fairly closely. I couldn't find, like, a direct synopsis of the book. I don't know if you were able to.
There was, there's quite a bit in the book that's different.
Oh, okay.
It's not like big pieces. It's not like total different plot points exactly.
Oh, okay.
But just like the building of it, the payoff of finding out about Madeline is significantly better in the book than it is in the movie.
I had, like, seen some people say that in, like, reviews of it, but then I found, like, a whole Reddit thread where people were, like, tearing apart the book because it was so obvious that Madeline was, like, sus.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I'd have to, I can't really read it now and see because I already know. In the movie, it was very obvious.
Yeah. And I wish more than anything, literally more than anything, that I'd read the book instead of watched the movie. Because I feel like it would have been a slower burn. It would have been paced better. I mean, I don't know anything about the book other than I do have a big, like, I'll tell you a little bit more about what was different. But I just wish more than anything I had read it and gotten that payoff for the reveals at the end.
Yeah.
In book form versus movie form.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. Yeah, some of the things that people were saying in the Reddit thread made it seem like in the book it wasn't that big of a, but I will never know.
Yeah.
But I guess they like kept describing Madeline as, like, expressionless, and then kept talking about how the monsters like can't master expressions. And so, like, it was like, yeah, of course. Like,
yeah. Yeah. She's a lot ruder and, like, more belittling in the book too. She doesn't have, like, the same etiquette that people have, essentially. Yeah. I think the like biggest change from the book is that there was a lot more survival happening.
Okay.
Amongst the four. Like, they were starving.
Yeah.
They couldn't get water, and that was, like, much clearer. So there was a lot more tension built around that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the time they get to the boat, they're half dead.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of was an issue because, what was the guy's name? Daniel. Like, when he, like, just flips all of a sudden. Like, she says it like they do with everything because they just say everything.
Yeah.
The exposition is crazy in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he flips, like, you don't get that rising tension of, like, things are getting to that breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, everything's fine. And then she says, oh, winter's been really hard. And then he snaps. And it's like, okay, well, that's not like,
Yeah.
You have to show us a little bit. You can't just tell us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there's just a lot more tension in the book as a whole. Like the like starving thing, the Watchers are a lot more like they're not peaceful at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're not sitting around watching them perform a show in front of the mirror. Like that doesn't happen. They're every single night trying to get inside the coop.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the burrows totally made up. That's not real. So that was like the opposite of trying to build tension where there didn't need to be any. Because that's not even like source material. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like what the burrows really added.
And the rules. That's the rules.
Don't get me started on the rules, Katie.
Yeah, that's not part of the book.
This movie spent so much time on things that did not matter.
Yeah.
Like, they go through these medicinal plants, like Georgina Campbell's character is showing her these plants, and you think, okay, that's going to come into play later. It doesn't. And then the guy ties up Madeline, and you think, okay, here's where we find out that Madeline's evil, because we all fucking know that she is. And then you don't. And then the rules are laid out, and you think, okay, this is going to be a big thing. Nope, they just break the rules constantly.
Yep.
What do you mean don't turn your back to the mirror, and then every scene their back is to the mirror?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was losing my mind in the theater, like, okay, don't go into the burrows, but she goes into the burrows immediately, and nothing really happens. Like, don't, like, it was like, every rule that they laid out had zero consequences, so there was no real, like, stakes.
Yeah. And I feel like those didn't need to be spelled out to make it suspenseful that they were going to, like, try to go outside or...
Right.
Like, if they had turned their back to the mirror and something terrible happened, like, that could have been a great way of saying, don't turn your back on the mirror.
Right. Which is, why lay out these rules if they're not going to have any impact on the storyline?
Yeah.
That's what was, like, frustrating for me, I think.
Yeah. And, the only rule that felt like it had anything to do with the storyline at all was don't open the door at night. Like, don't go outside. Like,
and they do that too.
And then they do it, but like obviously don't go out there. That's when they're out there. Like
right. Like we already know that we can't leave at night.
Yeah. Yeah. It just all in all, it seems like the book did a better job building tension, world building without holding hands quite so much.
Yeah.
And building characters. Because every character in this movie was so flat.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of room for character growth.
Yeah. This is going to be controversial, but I wish this had been a show. I wish this had been a real slow burn show.
Oh, you wanted more?
Yeah,
I think it should have been a short.
Yeah, it could have been a short too. It could have been a short. But like getting to know the characters, like I'm thinking like Lost, like flashbacks for each character to kind of like get to know them a little bit. You don't know what I'm talking about. But like each episode is dedicated to a character and you get to know them a little bit better. And then, you know, maybe the rules, you find out a different rule every episode. I don't know. It just went so fast. It was so rushed. And the concept is great. I was really excited about the concept. Like,
yeah, I think that's why like I was like more disappointed was because it was like watching the trailers and stuff. I was like, oh, this like could be really cool.
Yeah.
And they just didn't really do anything that I wanted them to do with it.
Yeah. And then to find out the whole time that it's like Celtic lore and like fairies, it's just
even cooler.
So much cooler. But like, what a waste on this movie.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sorry,
This is maybe an example why Nepo Baby shouldn't be a thing. Because they make movies like this. And unfortunately, we go and see them.
Yeah. I will say, though, that, like, I mean, she deserves her chance just as much as everybody else. Her dad is M. Night. Like, she has a masterclass in directing and storytelling in her home.
I mean, he's also made some real clunkers, so.
Yeah, that's true. But he's also made some of the best movies of all time. Like, categorically, some of the best movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and she was like a, what's the second unit director or whatever? For 2 of his movies, Knock at the Cabin and Old. So she was on set for them.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen Old.
definitely...
I still haven't seen Knock at the Cabin.
Man.
But
she didn't like just, grow up doing her own thing. And then suddenly was like, oh, I want to make a movie just like Dad did. And then he finances it. Like, she's been a part of his filmmaking since she was a kid.
Yeah.
She has the experience. Like, it just does not show. I don't know, maybe we're being too hard on her. I will say that in a lot of interviews that Dakota Fanning did, like she did one with like Today.
Yeah.
Everybody kept trying to say like, oh, tell us about M. Night. How cool was it working with M. Night? And she would do a really good job, very respectfully, like redirecting the conversation back to Ishana and making it clear that this was her vision, her work, and just like Daddy's money kind of thing. So maybe she didn't lean on him maybe as much as she should have.
Yeah. I mean, for I guess assistance with like the story itself. But honestly, like it kind of feels like a bad M. Night movie. Like
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like it.
No. I don't even give it that much credit.
He's had some clunkers. I don't know if you've seen all of them, but there are some bad M. Night Shyamalan movies. Yeah. I know she is like acknowledged the nepotism, which I can respect because like you can't help how you're born.
Yeah.
Like she's what, like 24, 25 years old. Like she's still very young. And, she can't help the fact that her dad is M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that if my dad was a famous filmmaker that I wouldn't also take advantage of that. So like, that's fine. But it's also kind of one of those things where it's like, you have to be really fucking good if you're a Nepo baby. Otherwise, everyone's going to be like, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, this is why this money should go to people who actually are talented instead of someone who made a movie like this. Yeah. But in her defense, she has said that, like, nepotism stuff is totally valid and, like, those discussions are valid and she absolutely is privileged and stuff like that. So like credit where credit's due. Some Nepo babies want to pretend that they had absolutely no advantage whatsoever. And that's bullshit. So
she said that she was inspired by 2 of her dad's movies for this. Which ones were it? Lady in the Water and The Village, which I haven't seen either of those, but like watching trailers, looking at stills, you can totally see how those 2 would have influenced her to make this because they both are like fantasy thriller, a little bit of horror. So at least she took some inspo from him, but it did sound like she's on her own doing her own thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. She also said she is inspired more of like in a storytelling way by Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle. She like loves Studio Ghibli.
For this movie?
Cited those. She said that not necessarily like direct influences on this film, but like overall she like keeps them in her mind as inspirations. But then for this movie, she said one of the references was Antichrist by Lars von Trier. But that was like a tonal reference because that film also takes place in sort of like a living, breathing forest. I think them being set in a forest is pretty much the only comparisons I'm seeing for that movie. But that movie's fucking crazy, so...
And I don't see the living forest comparison at all. I didn't get like the living forest vibe out of Watchers. Not even a little bit.
I guess I can kind of see it. Like when the mystery is still there and... I guess like you watch the trailer so you know that there's Watchers, but if you came into it blind and just like... the forest was moving and the animals were leaving. Like I could see in those scenes how that was kind of like a feel. But in all honesty, like living, breathing forest isn't really... I wouldn't say that's like a main central theme in Antichrist either. So I saw an interview with... Well, it was the same interviewer who did interviews with Dakota Fanning and Georgina Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically like asked like, what would your strengths and weaknesses be in this situation? Which kind of reminded me of our little would you survive
Would
thing.
you survive? Yeah.
And I thought it was funny because Dakota Fanning was like, oh, I'm done. Like, I don't have any strengths. Like, I would just give up. She said her only saving grace would be like the reality TV show to keep her like mind off of it. And then Georgina Campbell basically said that she would probably adapt to it well, but she doesn't have any survival skills, so she wouldn't be very helpful.
Yeah. No. Would you survive? No, they would not. Apparently the acting in front of a mirror was like really strange for everybody too. Dakota Fanning especially said that like it was really hard to separate herself from the vanity of being in front of a mirror and like actually acting, because you're not supposed to be looking at yourself while you're acting generally. She said that was a really unique experience for her.
Yeah, I feel like that much of a movie being in front of a mirror would be weird.
Yeah.
Like watching yourself play make-believe, basically.
Yeah. And literally watching yourself play make-believe for the watchers is like even weirder.
God.
Inception.
Watchception.
Yeah.
Darwin the bird.
Yeah.
It was played by a female bird called Sunshine.
Oh.
And apparently she was like wonderful to work with.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Ishana was like, every time I was like, oh, I wish the bird would like hang on the cage, she'd look over and the bird was just doing it. And she's like, oh my God. Like, so she was like, everything that she wanted the bird to do, the bird would do. And she was really excited that it would just like start performing every time the camera was around.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
The Does the Dog Die was very confused about how to put Does the Bird Die. They mention it in like 15 different categories. Obviously the bird does not die.
Oh, well, a bird dies.
Well, yeah, the crow. But
Yeah.
not like
Yeah, the bird doesn't
does
die.
not die.
A bird does die.
Yeah.
Does Darwin die? It lives.
No.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Only saving
That
grace
was
of the whole
fun.
movie.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the bird.
Yeah, me too. Offered some. No, he was there.
He was there.
Yeah.
He was there too. Yeah. They had the three besides Dakota Fanning. So Georgina Campbell, Olwen Fouere, I think is how you say her last name, and Oliver Finnegan. They got to set like early. So they spent, I think, a day or two together first. Just like getting to know each other and stuff before Dakota Fanning arrived.
Oh.
And so, well, I mean, it was to kind of play on the fact that she's this outsider who like comes in. They've been together for 5-8+ months. So yeah, so that was kind of little fun behind the scenes to help them make it a believable interactions, I guess.
Yeah, they had this like little faction going already.
Yeah, they're like, you're not invited to our club.
Yeah.
Our Watchers Club.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, this movie was called The Watched pretty much everywhere but here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, even a bunch of the interviews say The Watched. A lot of the red carpets, like the premiere said The Watched. Very strange. Some TV show or something.
The story does follow The Watched more than it follows The Watchers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, I guess one of the Watchers is The Watched, so...
Confusing.
Yeah. Also, wouldn't she just... Sorry. There were, like, plot holes that I just was like, okay. Like, they break the glass, the Watchers, but then when they're trying to get in later, they're trying to break down the door. Why not just continue breaking the glass? You already know that you can... And then they shatter it later, so they know that they... What? Okay. That's dumb.
And Madeline specifically said out loud, if they break the glass, we're done for. And then they break the glass and then they like live for another winter.
Yeah. That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But then like to get in, they're like, oh, they're trying to get to the door. And I know that the only reason that they went for the door was so that they could find an excuse for them to move the table to get under the rug. But like, Madeline would have known that that was there.
Yeah, she'd been down there.
She'd been down there. She was with the professor.
Yeah.
So, like...
Was she just, like... I mean, I don't even think the writers know. But was she just like playing up the story of like she's just this human that
I don't know, because she's like, she like tells Mina in the end that without her she would have never gotten out. So she was trying to get out anyway. So if you were trying to get out, wouldn't you like look for resources down there if you knew that they were down there?
you would think?
Or if you think that these people are the key to you getting out, wouldn't you show them this bunker full of food and supplies?
Yeah. I mean, maybe she didn't know how to. Maybe she knew that food and supplies were down there, but maybe she didn't know that the computer was the answer. And because she's a watcher, she doesn't know anything about computers.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, like if she didn't know that the video diaries said that,
Yeah.
fair. But it still just doesn't make sense to me that like she wouldn't. I mean, they couldn't, because that would give away the fact that she was a watcher. So
Yeah.
that's the reason. The reason is poor writing. But like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense from a logical perspective that she
Mhm.
wouldn't have, as soon as they were trying to break in, take everybody down there.
Yeah.
At the very least. Not when they're fucking starving. You'd think
Yeah.
she would take them down there.
Yeah. And I don't understand her. I don't understand why she's there in the first place.
Well, she kind of says that she wanted to get like an up close, like she wanted a up close view of them. That's her reasoning that she gives.
I don't understand. Just, also, full disclosure, I fell asleep like 3 times watching this movie.
Oh,
Yeah. I had to watch it
Okay.
twice.
yeah. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah. First time watching any of the movies that we've watched.
You fell
that I've
asleep.
straight up fallen asleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I watched it approximately 6 hours ago, so I didn't. But but yeah, I don't know. And she can just leave the forest because she's different. She's a daywalker. So she can just do whatever she wants. I guess
She's built different, yeah. Well,
Okay.
and that's another thing. In the
Yeah.
book, there's a lot of them.
a lot of daywalkers.
Yeah, at the end, like if you're a hybrid, if you're like a halfling,
Yeah.
you can walk around in the daylight. And there are many
Right.
of them, and that's kind of like the suspenseful ending of the book is like, by the way, I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people watching you. There are a lot of watchers. watching
Yeah.
you.
Which I got that like when she's telling us everything, because that's what they do.
Yeah.
There's just monologues in this movie where they just explain everything that's happening, even though like it was awful. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, like Dakota Fanning kind of says that when she's talking to herself, or her sister, that's played by herself.
Weird. Elle was
Which
like
also-
right there.
That kind of confused me in the beginning, like when she's driving, and like the voicemail plays, but it's her voice.
Oh.
And I was like, is she leaving this voicemail or is this to
Yeah.
her? Like, I was
Yeah.
like, what's happening here? Because her voice is like so distinctive to me that I was like, well, that's her talking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't
Wish
know
they
if
would
it
have
was
gotten a
the
different actor for the voice, almost.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the movie that told me that she had a twin sister at that point, or the Wikipedia that told me that she had a. Because I was reading along. with Wikipedia. Because the dog die was not complete enough for me to be comfortable watching it without, just in case.
Yeah.
Anyway, for whatever reason, I knew like, oh, that's her twin sister, and they're using her voice, and they're going to use her as the twin sister also.
Yeah,
But, like,
they didn't
Elle was right
make
there.
that clear at that point.
Why didn't they use Elle?
Because Elle probably read the script and was like, no thanks.
She has taste.
She was like, Yeah, there was a lot of those little moments that I was like, And also if she's like later Madeline's like, oh, I'm gonna like be you, Mina, like I'm gonna take your form. Why wouldn't you just leave them in the forest? She was in the boat waiting for them to get in. Like, you could have just left them there and then been either of them.
Yeah. Well, I guess you didn't know, like, where Mina lived, or...
Well, yeah, but did that matter? She didn't know where she lived when she was trying to kill her in... What's her name's house? Was Sierra? Sierra's house.
Kira.
Kira. Spelled Sierra in the IMDb. My bad.
Well, it's spelled Kiara.
Okay. Nobody spells Kiara with a K, or with a C.
The Irish do.
Oh. I should know that. My name is Irish.
Yeah. Mine is too. Means friend.
That's true. Oh, mine means small curly-haired one.
Yeah, okay. Did you have curly hair?
I
Growing up?
still have curly hair.
I know you do now, but did you?
Yeah, I had very curly hair.
Oh, okay.
But I mean,
Cute.
like, I was named before I had hair, so
Oh, okay. Worked out.
yeah. My parents wrote 50 names down each, and that was the only one they had in common, so.
Cute. That's what we did. I think we've had this conversation. That's what Dylan and I did, is we just wrote down a bunch of names. And
Yeah. Anyways, there were a lot of things. It just kind of felt a little unfinished. I feel like there were
Rushed.
things that they could have cut and things that they could have expanded on, and I wasn't really a fan of, like, the ending, and I needed them to stop telling me everything.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about a mystery is that when you just start telling people what's happening, it kind of takes away the whole aspect of what makes a mystery fun. So instead of letting us figure it out, they were just like, oh, I'm going to lay it all out for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was rough. They did, at the end, though, the, like, university, when she goes to get his stuff or whatever, the professor's stuff, they filmed that at the University of Galway. And apparently, A.M. Shine, who wrote the novel, went there. He's an alum.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. So there was, like, behind-the-scenes footage when they were shooting there. And he was there on set.
Oh, fun.
Like,
I didn't
oh.
see any behind-the-scenes footage.
I literally searched the Watchers behind-the-scenes footage.
Oh, got it.
And I got that, so.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I just searched Watchers interviews, which is probably why I didn't
I did that, too, yeah.
see any behind-the-scenes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like, which, I mean, pros and cons of doing new movies, it's like, we obviously want to talk about stuff that we're excited about, new movies that are coming out, but there's also sometimes not that much about them.
Yeah.
I was
On that
hoping the
note,
IMDb would be full of, here's what, like, exact
Fun
differences
facts.
between this and the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I ended up watching an hour-long video essay on the differences and why the book is better than the movie.
Oh, that's smart.
But she didn't like the book either.
They're like both shit, but the book was a little better.
Yeah, the book is better, but like not by a lot.
But like you still shouldn't read that either.
Don't waste your time. Which is sad because I would really like to read the book, but I feel like the twist, the reveal, you just won't
Yeah,
land.
it's kind of a moot point now when you already know what is going to happen.
Yeah.
There's some books that I feel like you can read and know what happens and like it's still fun, but
Yeah.
this one I feel like is kind of dependent on that like twist, I guess. I don't know. I kept seeing people call it a twist in like interviews and stuff, and I was like,
It wasn't a
if
twist.
that surprised you, you can come over to my house. We'll do like a whole little session on media literacy and we'll figure it out because
Yeah. It was a reveal that you should have seen coming.
yeah.
Okay. Should we rate it?
Let's do it.
All right. How scary did you think it was?
A 1.
Okay.
I was not scared at all.
Not even a little bit?
No.
No,
It
okay.
genuinely felt more like a mystery, like a thriller-ish.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I don't know. Even the beginning, I didn't even feel on the edge of my seat, really. What about you?
I gave it a 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. The suspense kind of did freak me out at the beginning. And maybe it would have been a 2 even. But the second the word Fae came out of Madeline's mouth, the illusion was just shattered. And it was not scary anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Well, was it sexy?
a little bit.
All right. What'd you give it?
I give it a 2.5.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's the woods. You know, the woods really do it for me. There's monsters with long fingers. It does it for me. The cast was great. It was kind of Twilighty because they're in the woods and it's Dakota Fanning. She's a vampire. Yeah, very hoa. It just was not sexy.
Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah. All right.
So you also gave it a 2.5. You agree with me?
And I give it a 2.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. Good.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
agree.
Okay, good.
Celtic folklore?
Mm-hmm.
What's not to be sexy about?
Okay, good. Glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, always. Well,
Okay, good.
not always,
Well,
but
not always.
about this.
Yeah.
This one time.
Yeah, specifically.
Yeah.
How fucked up do you think it is?
A 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing really crazy happened. You gave it a 1 as well?
Yeah, I also give it a 1. Yeah, not fucked up at all. Though I will say, if anything had happened to that parrot, I would have been pissed.
Yeah. Was
That
it a
would've been
parrot? Well, yeah, I guess
like
it
a
was
conure.
mimicking. A what?
Like a conure, maybe?
Is that a type of parrot?
Type of bird. I don't know that they're parrots, but they're
Oh.
maybe. Yeah, I think so.
I just don't know a lot about a bird, you know? Birds are birds.
Golden conure. Didn't they say at the beginning a golden conure? I could be
Sure.
making shit up. You wouldn't know the difference.
I wouldn't. I'm sorry.
That's right.
One day I'll know my birds.
Hang out with me long enough. Did you see that I had a spiritual moment with a hummingbird today? Did you get that?
I did, yes. Yeah, you sat with it for a while.
Yeah, I think he was ouchy. He was holding his, he might have been just cooling down. It was really fucking hot today.
I bet.
It was 112. So he might have just been cooling down. But he didn't move. He let me touch him.
Oh, well.
Poor little guy.
I hope he's okay now.
Yeah, he did end up going into the tree above that, so at least he's got the height.
Okay. Yeah. Not totally broken.
Yeah, I'll check on him tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anyway.
Overall, what did you think?
Yeah. I gave it a 2. Yeah. This movie had so much potential. Horror fantasy is just correct me if I'm wrong, it's not something that I've seen that I've enjoyed yet, right? I don't think that there's been a horror fantasy that I've liked.
Let me see. I think that's one of my categories.
Is it really?
Yeah. But I take them out once we've done them. I don't remember if we've done horror fantasy yet.
Okay. Well, either way, I just don't think that I've seen one that's been done really well yet. Yeah. And this one should have been it. It had all of the bones to be a really great horror fantasy movie, but it held your hand too much to make a really significant impact with the reveal at the end. The twists just all fell really flat. Well, with the exception that the Watchers were fairies. I did not see that coming, but that was not a good kind of shock. That was what the fuck are you talking about? Why? And I think what went wrong here is that, this is just my opinion. Ishana had read and loved the book and told the story from the perspective of someone who read and loved the book, not from the perspective of a moviegoer virgin to the world that she did a really terrible job building. You know what I mean? So I was just really disappointed. I wanted so badly to love this. I was the one who said that we needed to watch this.
Yeah.
And then to find out that it was a horror movie about fairies, I was just more pissed. I really wanted to love it, but I just don't. And the only saving grace, the only reason I gave it a 2 and not a 1 or a 1.5, was some of the acting was good, salvageable. There were some funny bits. I liked the finger things that were happening occasionally. And there was some good tension towards the beginning. And I do think this is a lot of things to just give it 1 point. And I do think Ishana should get some amount of credit for this being her debut, but not much. That's all.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting fairies either.
Yeah.
I kept thinking it was going to be Wendigos.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which is also kind of is that folklore?
Yeah, not Celtic, I don't think.
Yeah, no, definitely not Celtic.
Yeah, I think it's South American.
Yeah. But that's what I thought it was going to be, because they're known to mimic and possess people and stuff like that. So that's what I thought. And then she was like, fairies. And I was like, excuse me? Okay. Sure, let's roll with that. Yeah, this one was hard. I kept going back and forth between a 2 and a 2.5 because the first half of it I liked. It was cool and interesting and I liked where it was going, and then it just all fell apart so fast. Can I do a 2.25? Is that allowed?
We don't do the math anymore, so
That's true. I think we talked about this a while ago that we should be allowed to do it. So I think we should be allowed to.
I think you should just listen to your heart and go with 2.
Honestly, I think if I had to choose between a 2 and a 2.5, I would go with the 2. The exposition just killed it for me.
Yeah.
You can't just sit. I would just listen to the audiobook if I wanted to listen to you tell me what's happening. I just don't understand the choices that were made here.
Well, and the book didn't do that.
Well, the book does do that because that's what a book does. It tells you.
No, the book even left things to the imagination that the movie didn't.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't, like you. I wanted to like this. I saw the trailer. I was like, that's cool. The atmosphere of the movie was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, the first half. And then, it just fell apart so quickly. And it was so anticlimactic.
Yeah. Like, what even
Like, they're
happens
like-
at the end? Like,
I don't know. The guy tells them how to get out, and then they just get out, and that's fine. And then the guy dies, but like that was kind of insignificant, to be
who
honest.
cares? We didn't know him at all.
There wasn't even tension around that moment.
Yeah, and he wasn't even
And
likable.
then they just like travel for a while,
crazy.
just to reveal a twist that we already knew was coming.
Yeah, and then what? Like, so Madeline's watching her. So?
Okay.
Like,
So?
yeah, there's no like threat. There was no ending. The ending
There
was
really was.
the ending was, you know, it's Madeline's a halfling. We knew that already. And like
Well, did we know that?
we knew she
I
was
feel
a
like we
watcher.
knew she was a watcher.
Yeah.
I didn't think he fucked a monster.
Oh.
That was kind of surprising.
Oh, well.
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying maybe I will give it a 2.5 for monster fucking, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's yeah.
No. I don't know. I guess it makes sense though, because why else would she be like the special chosen one? But at that point, like all logic had just gone out the window, so I was just expecting them to be like, oh, she's just built different. That's the reason.
Which is what they do in the movie, but not in the book. So the book had that part right, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, not my favorite film.
No. Disappointing.
Yeah. Maybe July will be better to us.
Hopefully.
Although May was good to me. I liked
Yeah.
I saw the TV glow.
May was good to us both, just you a little bit more than me. You keep saying I didn't like it. I did like it.
If I didn't like Arcadian, you didn't like I saw the TV glow. That's the rules.
You liked Arcadian fine.
Thank
It was
you.
fine.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I liked I Saw a TV Glow more than you liked Arcadian, but not half a point more. You know what I mean? Because that's another, I would give it, Arcadian's a 3, I Saw a TV Glow is 3.25.
Now you're adding a 2.5.
No, I can't, because that's not part of the rules.
Oh, because you
But
said it was going to be a
wasn't a
2.5 and you
3.5.
added a 3.
Yeah, whatever.
It just feels like a lot of backtracking.
Yeah. Well,
But in all honesty, I feel like it hasn't been the worst year for horror movies. I feel like overall I've enjoyed most of the ones I've seen.
she forgot about Night Swim.
I was just about to say Night Swim and this were like the two clunkers that we've reviewed.
I wouldn't put this in the same category as Night Swim.
Well, I mean,
Night Swim had no redeeming qualities.
that was awful.
This movie at least was
It's
a little
bit
horny.
better. Yeah, but it was still bad.
It wasn't
The other ones, Lisa Frankenstein, Stop Motion, Arcadian, and I Saw the TV Glow were much better.
Yeah.
Those I would all recommend people see.
Yeah.
This, I would never tell anyone to watch Night Swim. That would be actively wishing harm against them.
Yeah.
And then this one I would be like, if you're super fucking bored and you have nothing else to watch and it's on streaming, maybe.
Yeah, because you
But
can't
probably
even recommend it to like Celtic folklore fans.
No, 'cause they
that
don't
would
even, like-
spoil the one thing that was sort of interesting.
Yeah, and they don't even really like expand upon that in like
Yeah.
an interesting way. It's just like, oh, they're fairies.
Yeah, and it doesn't even like look like Celtic folklore, which is the coolest part of Celtic folklore, is how it looks.
Yes.
Like the vibes, you know?
Folklore horror is so cool and like
Yeah.
yeah.
It just missed.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though? Is that what did you
What?
rattle? You rattled off 4 movies that were good this year,
Mm.
and 2 movies that weren't.
Yeah.
And literally before we started recording, you were talking about another movie that you saw this year that you didn't like. So it's
Okay, I
literally
said
like,
but I did say movies that we've reviewed
okay, all right.
have been mostly good. We've been picking them pretty well
Yeah.
until this.
Well, what were our other options? Tarot was one of our options. That was terrible.
That was so bad. I did see Tarot. That was bad. In a Violent Nature was between that and The Watchers.
In a Violent Nature and Watchers?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did see In a Violent Nature. I was not personally a fan of it.
Yeah, so what you're telling me is that there's been more shitty horror movies than good ones this year.
Yes. But not that we've talked
That
about.
we've done. All right.
We're doing better than the
The general population.
Yeah, because there's even more. There was Imaginary. That was a clunker. People said I still haven't seen it yet.
We knew
Strangers
that.
Chapter 1. That was a clunker. People said I still haven't seen it. There's been a lot of clunkers this year. But we've been picking good ones.
Majority of the clunkers, Blumhouse.
Yeah. I will give Blumhouse credit, though, for the fact that, like, at least they do things that are, like, different. and kind of take chances on like smaller people, you know?
See, I would give
Like,
that
they
honor to
saw a
A24.
short- I agree, but yeah, Blumhouse does a lot of like just pushes out a lot of stuff. Whether or
Yeah.
not it's good, it doesn't really matter.
Quantity
But I
over
will say,
quality.
like, it is kind of cool that, like, oh, they saw a short and turned it into a movie and gave this opportunity to a person who just made a short.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even though Night Swim was fucking terrible and should have stayed a short. But I will at least give them credit for, like...
Yeah, that's fair. Even though A24 does the exact same thing. Better. Like, significantly better.
Yes. And Neon. Honestly, Neon is kind of
Neon,
like
too.
crawling up on A24's ass.
Yeah.
Anyways, next month is the movie that I'm most excited for this year, so I'm going to be really sad if it's not good.
I thought you were most looking forward to Strangers.
No. I mean, like, I'm excited. I was excited for that. Now I'm not. But no. The movie I was most excited for this year is Long Legs.
Oh, nice.
And we're going to talk about that next month in July when it comes out.
Yeah. Longlegs could very well have been the name for Arcadian.
Yeah.
And it stars Nick Cage.
True. Good point.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. What's next week?
Well, Would You Survive?
Oh, fuck, I forgot.
Yeah.
We already talked about Dakota Fanning and Georgina
You
Campbell.
know they wouldn't.
They're not.
Would you?
I am surviving
Yeah.
because I'm assuming I'm Dakota Fanning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not walking away from my car to try to hand deliver a bird through a forest.
Mm.
I'm figuring out the car situation.
You are turning into a mechanic.
No, I mean, maybe. If
Well, the
that's what it
thing is,
takes.
though, is that it's the forest caused it to shut down. So I don't think you can just figure out the car.
See, I didn't get that.
Yeah,
That went
that's why they
right
like
over my head.
explained that he created the generator that keeps that place going, but all the other technology shuts down, which is why her car stopped.
Yeah, I missed that entirely.
Yeah, so you go back. You wouldn't be able to just drive through.
I mean, I'm still not leaving the car.
You're
Just
just
like
sitting in the car until you die.
walk back where you came from until you get cell service and call somebody.
I think that would also be my move.
Yeah.
I would just, because she was on a road, so I'm just following the road.
Yeah, like just backtrack a little bit until you get service. I mean, you're gonna get service eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's kind of the move.
Like, how far away? That's another plot hole. It's like, how far away was she from this place that she thought that she could just walk the rest of the way?
Well, she thought that someone was there because she saw the sign. So she was like, oh, I think someone like lives here. So she was trying to find help for her car.
Maybe I should have watched this 3 times.
Yeah, I think you maybe missed some of the exposition, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she was like trying to find someone who lived nearby.
Okay. Well, she told that to the bird.
Yeah, she just kept talking to the bird. Also, if this the movie starts out with her saying that like this forest is not on any map. It's not like, it's like this mystery forest in Ireland, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, why was her GPS routing her through that forest to get to this place?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a B, but like we should talk about A because that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
The whole movie didn't make any goddamn sense.
It didn't. Katie, why was this movie bad?
It was so bad. Oh my god. I'm just so disappointed. I wanted it to be good so bad.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
Betrayal. Betrayal from the Shyamalan family.
If Trap this summer is bad, they will be hearing from me.
Is that an M. Night or an Ishana movie?
That's an M. Night.
Oh.
It's the one with Josh Hartnett that's coming out.
Oh, I love him. The one at the concert?
Yeah. Which is also, by the way, the concert in that movie is just his other daughter. He's just doing, like, it's just to promote her music career, I think. So, like, it's the summer of Shyamalan nepotism, and if that one sucks too, I'm making a phone call. To who? I don't know. But I'm going to try to reach them. I'm going to write a fan letter and be like, fuck you.
This is our fan letter. This is our fan letter. This episode is our fan letter to the Shyamalan family. Just tell them to just stop fucking up, please.
Yeah. You got to start popping your puss.
Yeah, I would just like to also formally apologize to Ishana for just ragging on this movie. Like,
I don't think that I will apologize. I feel like this was constructive criticism.
that's fair.
And I gave her props about, acknowledging her privilege. Maybe one day she can prove us wrong.
I hope she does.
Wishing you the best, Ishana.
I hope she sticks with the vibe of the two movies that she talked about, her liking of her dad's and like this, like foresty fantasy
If
horror.
she keeps like, honestly, if she went more into folklore horror and like atmosphere, like kept that atmosphere that she was able to create, like there's not no hope. It's just,
There's a sequel to the book coming.
oh God. Don't. This movie's already not doing well, so. Although, fuck, didn't M. Night Shyamalan like fund it, so it doesn't even matter. He could just fund another movie.
Yeah, he funded it and then sold it to Warner Brothers for $30 million.
Yeah. And it's
Crazy.
made 15?
So far.
Okay.
A little over 15. Crazy.
Crazy girl.
All you need is a dream
Yeah.
and daddy's money.
A dream and a very rich father.
Yeah.
God, I wish that were me.
I don't have either of those things.
Oh, and fun fact, tomorrow is Father's Day, so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when we're recording this.
Yeah, when we're recording.
If you're hearing this. I hope you had a previously good Father's Day. All right, well, next, we had to kind of film out of order because Katie's going out of town.
Oh, yeah.
So you've already seen next week's movie. It's Jennifer's Body.
Ah.
I know. You don't get to predict it.
Didn't I, though? Didn't I predict it during Scream?
No,
I
you predicted this.
Watchers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too bad.
I
I
know.
would have gotten real close.
Oh, yeah. It would have
So
slapped
close.
for sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm excited to talk about it. We've
Me
already
too.
talked about it, but I'm excited for everybody to hear us talk about
Yeah.
it.
That's what we do.
So yeah, thank you for listening.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Please.
We'll see you next week for Jennifer's Body.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.